Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. On this video, we're going to talk All South Wrestling Alliance. It was a promotion that was started by Anne Gunkel. Anne Gunkel was the wife of Ray Gunkel. And Jack, I think to start this out, I think we need to start with the matches in Savannah, Georgia.
August the 1st, 1972, was a Tuesday night. Savannah, Georgia, Savannah Civic Center. Aaron Newman, promoter for Georgia Championship Wrestling. Tim Geohagen versus Wayne Cowan. George Grant versus Juan Caruso. Joe Turner over Nick Russo. The Avenger versus Bill Bowman. Dickie Steinborn versus Rocket Monroe. And for the brass knucks title, Ray Gunkel versus Ox Baker.
Following the Gunkel and Baker match, Gunkel passed out in the shower and was rushed to the hospital, but was pronounced dead that night. He was only 48 years old. At the time of his death, Gunkel held both the Brass Knucks title and the Georgia Television title. Gunkel had been the reigning Brass Knuckles champion since he beat Baker on June 30th, 1972 in Atlanta, and the Georgia Television champion since he beat Big John on October 15th, 1971 in Atlanta, Georgia. And Rodney, let's go ahead and pick up on August 4th.
Okay, August 4th, 1972. That's a Friday night. Atlanta, at the fabulous Atlanta City Auditorium. Promoter Paul Jones in Georgia Championship Wrestling. The card was Juan Caruso against George Grant. This is a good one. Tim Geohagen. I bet you I just butchered that one anyway, against Bill Bowman. Joe Turner against Jesse James. Bob Armstrong and Roberto Soto against Ox Baker and Rocket Monroe. Assassin number 2 versus Dickie Steinborn. Winner was forced. The winner had to be forced to submit. And then it's Argentine Apollo against Nick Bockwinkel. Bill McMahon was credited as being the referee for this card. The program for this card had a full-page memorandum of Ray Gunkel. Mentioned he passed away on August the 1st, 1972.
Now, at this point, Ray Gunkel's death would cause a lot of problems because on August 7th, 1972, Anne Gunkel, the widow of Ray Gunkel, arrived at the Atlanta office with the intent of filling Ray's position in the company. This is said to concern many within the company, Lester Welch specifically. On August 14th, 1972, as well, another death would happen when Doug Scoggins, who had been wrestling as Mr. X, died in an automobile accident in Perry en route to a cart in Valdosta, Georgia. His passenger, Juan, how did you say that name, Jack? Caruso suffered minor physical injuries, but Scoggins was reportedly killed upon impact. Two major things happening at within 2 weeks of each other. And Jack, let's pick up with the card on August 18th, 1972.
Yeah, and that was a Friday night at the Atlanta City Auditorium. Paul Jones, promoter for Georgia Championship Wrestling. Wayne Cowan versus the champ. Skandar Akbar versus Jesse James. Dick Steinborn versus Juan Caruso. Argentina Apollo versus Rocket Monroe. Bob Armstrong and Roberto Soto went against Bill Bowman and Joe Turner. Terry and Dory Funk Sr. versus the Assassins. There was an ad in the program for this card from the Gunkel family that read, "The family of the late Ray Gunkel acknowledges with grateful appreciation your many kind and thoughtful expressions of sympathy."
All right, Rodney, October 24th, 1972.
Right, it comes up to Macon Coliseum. Fred Ward is the promoter for Georgia Championship Wrestling. It's Ko Tiki over Ox Baker. Skandar Akbar versus Jesse James. Dick Steinborn against Juan Caruso. Pedro Goddard. I hope that I didn't mess that one up. Against George Grant. It's Roberto Soto and Argentina Pardo against Bill Bowman and Joe Turner, plus a battle royal.
All right, this is when it gets very interesting. This is when it gets the War of Atlanta is about to begin. Earlier on this particular day, which is October 24th, 1972, Anne Gunkel would incorporate Gunkel Enterprises Incorporated. Although it'd be nearly a month before her plans to leave the company and form an opposing promotion would become common knowledge. She immediately began discreetly attempting to secure possible television deals for an opposing promotion as well as venues for live events. Lester Welch later claimed to have been tipped off that she had made attempts to secure a promoter's license as well as arrangements for weekly cars at the Atlanta Municipal Auditorium, and said he began to watch her more closely than ever in an effort to determine her motives and success, as the other owners did not take her seriously. Then on November 22nd, 1972, I believe they start taking her seriously. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Columbus, Georgia. The Columbus Municipal Auditorium, Fred Ward, the promoter, Georgia Championship Wrestling, 2 wrestlers show up. That would be Bob Armstrong and Rock Hunter. This was the only match after a boycott of the remaining advertised wrestlers. Armstrong and Hunter were the only 2 in attendance to wrestle. Ward announced to the crowd ahead of the match that all money would be returned whether fans decided to stay or leave. Publicly, he offered no explanation as to the whereabouts of the other wrestlers advertised. Earlier in the day, a private meeting was held in Atlanta, said to be led by Anne Gunkel, Tom Ernesto, the assassin number 2, Dick Steinbord, and Charlie Harbin. Known to be in attendance were Ed Capral, Charlie Smith, Ted Oates, Jerry Oates, Ox Baker, Argentino Apollo, Oki Shakina, Jesse James, Skandar Akbar, Tommy Siegler, El Mongo, the Hollywood Blondes, Jerry Brown and Buddy Roberts, Wayne Cowan, Joe Turner, Bill Bowman, Roberto Soto, The Avenger, Crusher Carlson, and Dale Cochran. And I believe our father might have been there as well. I believe he was there. During the meeting, the leaders announced that they were forming a new promotion to be called the All South Wrestling Alliance. Of those in attendance, the only one to stay with Atlanta NWA office was Daryl Cochran. Not in attendance at the meeting, but also decided to remain with the NWA side after learning of the news were Bob Armstrong and Roy Lee Welch, which we know why Roy Lee Welch stayed.
That's right.
Hunter was also not in attendance at the meeting and is said not to have heard there would be a boycott of the Columbus card that evening. Jerry Oates had decided to join All South, but returned to the Atlanta NWA office within weeks of his departure. Also on this day, once Gunkel made her intentions clear, ABC Booking Incorporated was dissolved immediately in order to avoid owing Gunkel any more payments beyond her settlement. As a result, Paul Jones, Lester Welch, and Roy Welch incorporated Mid-South Sports Incorporated. Shortly after this, Mid-South filed a lawsuit against Tom Ernesto for the amount of $1 million, claiming he had attempted to sabotage the company, but the suit never went to trial as it was dismissed, according to Joe Hamilton, which was his partner, the assassin. Jack?
November 24th, 1972, Friday night, Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta City Auditorium. Paul Jones, promoter for Georgia Championship Wrestling. Daryl Cochran versus Tinker Todd. Don Curtis versus Ronnie Hill. Eddie Graham, Robert Fuller, and Buddy Fuller versus Tony Russo, Jim Gradmeyer, and Gito. Battle Royal featured Jake Smith, who was the winner, Jim Byers, Jim Grabmeyer, Tinker Todd, Roy Lee Welch, Don Curtis, Duke Kiyomoka, Robert Fuller, Rick Frito, Daryl Cochran, Doug Gilbert, Bob Armstrong, Gito, and Mike Papadopoulos.
Yes.
I think it's
Close enough.
Anyway, they participated. And then Bob Armstrong versus Mike, who I can't say his name the right way. Doug Gilbert versus Bronco Lubitsch, and Jack Briscoe versus Hiro Matsuda.
By the way, this card on November 24th, 1972 was full of wrestlers that people didn't even know in Georgia. So crowds wasn't that great. But on the other hand, Anne Gunkel was doing some great cards. This card was the first This card that Jack just told you, this card was the first following the mass departure of the regular roster of talent the promotion had been using. Much of the talent came on a one-day notice to help fill out the card. The next several weeks, other NWA promoters would send in wrestlers whenever possible to help Atlanta rebuild and compete with All-Star Wrestling Alliance. The one-page program for this card announced that Bill Watts, Danny Hodge, Dory Funk Jr., Bobo Brazil, Spuck Monroe, Flash Monroe, Fritz Von Erich, Nick Bockwinkel, Jay Strongbow, Buddy Colt, and Ron Fuller will be wrestling in Atlanta soon. There was also a statement that read, only matches promoted by Paul Jones are sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance. We will talk more about All South Wrestling Alliance, but you got to give credit to Anne Gunkel.
Yeah.
She got everybody but 2 or 3 people to go wrestle for her.
Yeah.
Jack, thoughts about that?
70s women were not looked at as being leadership material, and I think she took that opinion and shoved it down their throat. Just bluntly, she earned her position, and obviously she knew what she was doing. She wasn't, just a wife, who cooked cookies while her husband was off running shows. Obviously, she paid attention and helped and worked and, helped him build that company. So she was not afraid, and I got to hand it to her.
Well, I know that Buddy Buddy Fuller, he was there prior to Lester, but I believe Buddy could not get along with Ray Gunkel. That was part of the problem, and I guess he thought Lester could get along with him much better, which I don't think happened. Because from the talks that I've heard, actually Ray Gunkel might have been going to do that by himself. He was going to do that anyway. So I think Ann just picked up and went on with it. So Rodney, any final thoughts on this?
This is about the biggest war I've ever seen. I tell you right now. I mean, it's the biggest war I've ever seen.
What we're going to do, a couple of probably about 10 videos in a series of this, and we're going to be talking about matches that happened, and we'll look at Georgia's matches as well. We're going to look at Georgia, and we're going to look at All South Wrestling. We're going to kind of see the difference of what they were doing at this time during the War of Atlanta. If you enjoyed this video, give us the big thumbs up and subscribe to the page and go one step further. Hit that notification bell. It'll let you know every time we upload a video. And we'll see you on the next video right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out.